Build compelling real-time apps quickly and scale them globally with the PubNub real-time network. Only PubNub delivers the core building blocks needed for any real-time application. Find out for yourself by signing up for free today. Visit pubnub.com. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Untether.tv. I'm your host and founder, Rob Woodbridge. Look, we've all heard about this revolution that's going on. Not the mobile one we're talking about. Now we're talking about the cloud. And when you layer the cloud on top of mobile, you get this promise of ubiquitous access to documents, ubiquitous access to email, ubiquitous access to your entire life in a digital format. The challenge is there's so much data coming in from so many different locations. How do you then bring it to a device? How do you then put it into an interface that allows you to access the information that you have stored up into the cloud and do it very, very quickly and effortlessly? And that is what we're going to be talking a little bit about today. Much broader topic as well around starting up a mobile company, and also TechStars is involved in this. We're talking about a company called FindIt. We're also talking to the co-founder, Levi Belnap, who is in Chicago in the offices at TechStars, but has aspirations of getting the hell out of there and moving to California. Is that right, Levi?
That's correct, Rob.
Did I get that right? You're a co-founder of FindIt?
So yeah, I'm the co-founder and CEO of FindIt.
Well, tell me a little bit about, did I describe that accurately about what the challenge you guys are trying to, I don't know, the challenge you guys are trying to attack here, which is that mess of cloud data that I put up there, give it to me in an access point on my phone?
Yes, you hit it on the head, Rob. Basically, we see the world changing. We now have information all over the place, right? I have information in my email accounts, cloud storage accounts, you name it, CRMs. I don't know where that information is. I just know I need it. And I also don't care where I am. I just want to access it on the device I have. So
sorry, I hate interrupting, but do you actually care where it's stored? Like, should you care where it's stored?
No, we don't. Not only do we not care where it's stored, we don't care how you store it.
Right.
You should be able to organize your information however you want. We want to help you get it when you need it, no matter where it is, no matter where you are.
Okay. And so, like, what brought this on? I mean, obviously there's so many other providers. There's Box, there's Dropbox, these cloud providers. There's iCloud, Microsoft's got their own. Everybody's got their own little spot here in the cloud, and they're all kind of giving you access windows to it through the mobile device. But I mean, what was it about this industry that you thought, oh my God, are people not paying attention here? The biggest problem is what FindIt is trying to fix.
So it really just came down to, like, we experienced a pain over and over again in our own professional lives, right? And eventually we woke up and I said I was transitioning out of a job, actually. And there was just this information overload. As I was handing off information, I couldn't find anything. The person I left it to couldn't find anything. And I started saying, wow, information is so important in the world we live in. I need to find it when I need it. Why can't I find it? And that was the catalyst that then led us down the path of FindIt. It evolved a lot from the beginning, but that's what brought us to where we are.
It seems like we're so far away from that vision that Apple and Microsoft had in the early days of the desktop OS, where we put things, we compartmentalize content into folders. And I still see guys, old school technologists and old school executives that have folders like 2013 and then a subfolder of client name and a subfolder of have we moved beyond that? Like, this classification of content by folders, is that a dead art now?
So, as you mentioned, people still do it, right?
It's crazy to me. It's crazy that they do it.
I think what we've learned is we've been taught now by the leading technology companies not to do it. So, right, Google taught us, like, don't throw anything away, don't categorize, keep it all. Yeah. We'll help you find it when you need to find it. Yeah. Our search can solve your problems. The problem is the search technology that Google has given us is very, very good for the web, but it doesn't work the same way for our own information. And so now there's this disconnect where they've taught us, don't organize, just search.
Yeah.
But you can't search.
Is that just because the data is structured online? I mean, it is structured online compared to the way that we name our documents, we name our images. Mostly they're like pic 001, right? Is that the biggest challenge here? Is that at least with the web, we seem to be much more advanced than personal search?
So I think structure is a big piece. We definitely are dealing with unstructured data and trying to figure out a way to help people find and search unstructured data. But there's another piece to that, which is when you search the web, you may be searching for a recipe. And any version, they could bring up 10 results. Any one of those 10 results satisfies your need. But when you're searching for that specific email has a specific piece of information, it's not good enough to get 10 results. You need that one. And the way search works right now isn't optimized for drilling down into that one specific thing.
Do you think search is kind of lazy? Like as a primary mechanism, I'm not talking about on the web, I'm talking about mobile, right? But like as a primary find mechanism, do you think that search is the lazy answer for a lot of this?
No, I think search is like the way it should be done.
Okay.
Right? Like, because if you have to take the time to organize your information, there's no way it can be unified across different people, across different platforms. There should be a way to search very simply across any platform, any structure of data to help you find what you need.
Well, and explain that a little bit more, because I mean, you offer on the application. If you haven't found it, just get FindIt.com and download it. But if you offer a search bar, and then you categorize the content based on type of person, and we're going to get into the UI and the UX. But I'm really interested in this concept that we all search differently. We approach search differently, and when you're looking for a specific document of a title that you have no idea the name of it. Like, are you trying to move people away from Boolean and typing in search terms, or are you trying to enhance that and create a language around search to be able to find your docs?
So lots of questions in there.
Yeah, well, I got 7 of them. So
so first, I'll pull out one piece of that, which is moving away from Boolean. Yes, because the average person never understood Boolean, right? It doesn't matter. I don't know Boolean, and I think I'm probably a little more versed in technology than most, right? So yes, moving away from Boolean. The other piece that you mentioned in there that's very interesting is everybody searches differently, is the comment you made, right? I would actually step back from that and say, philosophically, we as humans actually think in a very similar way when we go to find information. And this is what brought us on the problem in the first place. So back in the early phases of FindIt, before it was even FindIt, I had this problem that I couldn't find information, I couldn't share it. And I started thinking, how do I want to find information? What do I do naturally as a human to find information? And I realized that I very quickly identify multiple variables, like these little different pieces that help me pinpoint. So like, for example, I went to a restaurant with my wife last year. I don't remember the name of it, but I remember it was Italian. I remember it was downtown, and I remember it was in the summer. And very quickly, I used like multiple variables to pinpoint on, oh, that's where that place is. That's what it was. And so we said, okay, well, why can't we do the same thing with like information search? Why can't we let somebody very simply and visually pinpoint what they want rather than forcing them to learn a new language like Boolean or understanding complex advanced search functionality?
So that's very interesting. So you're adding context to the search, right? So you kind of you have a fuzzy recollection of places that you've been, or things that you've done, or things that you've written, or documents that you've been engaged with. And I think that's an interesting thing where you start to add context to exactly that. Right, so documents are context, because it's either something that you wrote for a job, somebody that you wrote with something that you emailed to somebody, or somebody that's a picture of somebody, right? So, like, how does that roll into this, into kind of assisting us in finding the things that we need right away?
So with traditional search, what happens is you type in a term and you get the list of results. And unless you were spot on, that result isn't there, and you have to go page after page after page, right? We all know this, we've lived it. What we do is then say, okay, start where you want to start. If you want to start with a key term, great. Or if you want to start with a cue, like the person or the timing or the type of information, start there. And then we allow you to more or less like build a complex search in a way that's so simple and natural, right? So you start with the term, if that's what you know, and then you build on top of that. Once you see the results, if that one you want isn't right there at the top, then very quickly say, well, I know the person that's related to this thing I'm searching for, and you can filter it down more based on that. Or I know the time period of when this happened. Or I may even know like what type of information I'm looking for. I know it's a PDF, or I know it's an image, or whatever it may be. And so very quickly, we're letting people use that like better way of thinking and translating that into a way that works on the phone.
Is the phone the ultimate mechanism for this, or is this like the entrance way for you guys?
So it's definitely an entrance way. We think there's going to be applications both on the desktop potentially and for sure the web, where this same type of interface, just a more natural way to look and think about information, will be needed.
Yeah, I mean, I love the strategy, right? Because I think mobile is like, and you must feel this as well, is that mobile is a great entry point, because you can disrupt on the fringe with mobile, get enough customers pretty quickly, get enough users, whatever that is, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, or a million, 10 million, whatever, right? And then
I'll take the 10 million.
The 10 million. I mean, then all of a sudden you've got a foothold onto the platform the go-to platform. It seems natural that you can just transition that to the web and to, additional services, and then ultimately, look at doing your own, I don't know, storage play, right? Like that's how it scales for you guys.
So not our own storage play.
Yeah.
We think companies like Dropbox and Google Drive are phenomenal. They do what they do very well. The way we scale is going to the other places where you have information that matters to you. So we will expand into business-specific applications where you as a professional store content that you would like to access in the same beautiful way that you can with your personal information using FindIt now on your phone. So if you use Salesforce, we will build out for Salesforce, so you'll be able to use this same intuitive process of finding information now on Salesforce, or SharePoint, or Microsoft Exchange, or just the list goes on.
And is the ultimate goal just to create a thread for your content so that, it's kind of like one-touch access to all your documents?
So we definitely think you need something that reaches across the different facets of your life, right? Yeah. So yes, this is the first place you look.
Yeah.
You go to FindIt because you can get to anywhere else you need to be very quickly and in a direct way using FindIt.
Okay. So there's obviously a number of people that are in this space, that are siloed, as you said, Dropbox, Box, Salesforce. What are they not doing that you guys thought, oh God, do they not see this? This is exactly what we need to do, and if they're not going to see it, we're going to attack this problem.
So first of all, they all do things very well that they do, right?
Yeah.
So what I think what's happened most often with like a software product is search is thrown in at the very end as we also need search.
Right. Websites the same way. Everything, right? Yeah.
You build out your functionality because you're focused on your core competency. This is what we're going to do really well. So with Dropbox, we're going to make it so easy for you to store information and share information that you're not going to do it anywhere else. And they nailed that, right? But then afterwards, they're like, oh, shoot, we also need to be able to search. And you get the same thing across platforms, right? So we're not going to try to replicate their functionality. We are starting with search. And we're optimizing our entire user interface and the product so that we help you find something. That's what we're going to do.
And that's my earlier question about search being lazy, right? I think that's where it stems from, is that I see this all the time, is that people always talk to me, right? And I work with a lot of companies, and they say, well, what about how are the users going to get to this point? To a point where, you've gone through this whole process of getting them to download the application. You've developed the app, you've got them to download the application by spending a lot of money in marketing, and then your goal should be, to get them to X, right? To get them to do something, like find a document. And they always say, oh, okay, we'll just throw a search engine. We'll just throw a search bar. Like, I said, well, where would you like the search bar? Oh, at the very top. And it kind of demeans all the effort that they put into everything else by just throwing a search bar in. And I think, there's got to be a way that you can guide them in very quick order to get them where they got to go. And in your point, for you guys, it's to get them to a document that they're looking for. That's what I meant by search being lazy, is that most people I know, as you said, throw it on as an afterthought. Mm-hmm. And that's no good, man. That's not planning.
No.
So back to it. So these guys they built their infrastructure, they put a search on, and they think, okay, well, you guys looked at that and said, we can do way better than what those guys are doing.
Well, not only that, we make their platforms better. So not only are we like, yes, maybe we search better than Dropbox searches, but like they don't want to be the king of search. They want to be the king of store your information here, collaborate on documents here.
Yeah.
So we incrementally improve their platform and make it so that you as a user remember, oh yeah, I have that file in Dropbox. I'm going to go back to Dropbox. Or, oh, that email's in Gmail. I'm going to go to Gmail. So we make every platform you're already using even better for you so that even if their search isn't optimal, the rest of their functionality is, and we kind of augment their good product that already exists.
And I think that's the important piece of it, especially later on, maybe when you're looking for an exit or something. We'll talk about that a little later.
Yeah, that's a little ways away.
Well, yeah, at the beginning, it's hard to talk about the exit. But are you an entrepreneur? Were you born an entrepreneur? Have you done this all your life?
So yes, I'm an entrepreneur, born an entrepreneur, selling from a little kid. Lots of different jobs, but always in entrepreneurial kind of positions. And
so this was a natural extent. This was natural for you to kind of find this idea and say, okay, let's just do it.
So I wasn't a software engineer, so it wasn't natural for me to say, let me build this product.
Right.
I found a pain, I saw an opportunity, and I started building a team around me that had the right skill sets to bring this thing to reality.
So you found a technical co-founder, or?
So yeah, I have two co-founders, and a third that we're probably bringing on, that's coming on board soon. But yes, so I started working with other people that together, collectively, we were able to attack this very well.
And they're complementary skills? So, I mean, you're a business guy, you got a technical developer, do you have a marketing person? What was the makeup of the three of you guys?
Yes, so I was actually at business school when I first discovered this problem. So I was transitioning out of my job going into business school. I met one of my co-founders there. So he and I both have business skills, but he happens to be much more product oriented than I am.
Okay.
He's very focused on details, spent his career working in kind of big analytics, big data, working at big consumer packaged good companies, looking at how to optimize when you have tons of information.
Yeah.
Right. So he had lived this, and he loves technology and is much more focused on the details than I am. So he and I worked really well in that situation. I'm a sales guy, entrepreneur, business guy, figure out how to get this thing done and make it happen. We then found a software engineer who had worked for big tech companies and startups like Omniture before they IPO'd. He was phenomenal. I had a personal relationship with him, brought him on board, and the three of us started going at this.
So what would your fourth co-founder be then?
So right now, our fourth co-founder actually that we're bringing on board is someone who helped us with the design of this app, okay, the user interface of this app. So he was somebody that we started working with here as part of TechStars. We really liked him, felt that he had a good handle for where we're trying to take this technology and the way that people and technology should interact. And he just committed and is coming on board full time.
Well, I mean, one of my sections that I want to talk to you about is the UI UX, and I mean, it's stunningly simple and stunningly beautiful and very effective. So, yeah, good move.
Yes,
good move. Well, so you've got this team. Like, how did okay, I got to know. Did you finish B school? Did you finish business school?
I did finish business.
Good for you, man. That's
Barely.
important. It's
the week of TechStars starting. Yep.
Okay, so you're just fresh out of school then.
Yep.
All right, so. TechStars, talk me through that process. You're in Chicago in TechStars. First of all, where did you go to school? Where did you go to business school?
Harvard.
Okay, so in a little school, yeah. Heard of it, yeah, small. So you're in Boston.
Yep.
You decide to go to TechStars. You move to Chicago. This is what I love about Americans. I'm Canadian, right? You seem to be like, it doesn't matter. Like every entrepreneur I talk to is like, oh yeah, okay. Look, I was born. Where were you born?
Utah.
In Utah, I went to school in Massachusetts, and then I'm now in Chicago for 3 months, and then I want to move to California. After, you guys are very transient. I love that. But why TechStars? Why Chicago? Why not California? New York or something like that?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So part of it was logistical. TechStars, we were graduating. We had this team that was working very well together. We now have student debt we have to worry about. So we basically were in a situation where it didn't look like we were going to bootstrap this company. This is the kind of company where we need capital to scale and build a business. Yeah. So we're going to raise funding. We either had to raise funding immediately, or we needed something like an accelerator, like TechStars, to act as like the next step in the line, right? We applied to a number of different accelerators and were accepted to TechStars here in Chicago, and it felt like the right fit. It was the only TechStars that actually fit with our schedule. All the other TechStars started like earlier, or else we may well have been in Boston or somewhere else.
Gotcha. And I mean, there's nothing against Chicago at all. Yeah. Nothing at all, right? It's a good city.
It was really funny, actually. We didn't think about coming to Chicago, obviously. And then once like a friend of ours, a mentor who had been through the TechStars program, said, you should look at Chicago. We applied here, got accepted, said like, this looks like a good fit, let's go. And then since we've been here, have been shocked by like the entrepreneurial movement that's actually here in the Chicago scene, right? A lot going on, a very exciting co-working space here in downtown that they call 1871. That's just phenomenal. So it's been a really good experience for us.
Yeah, Chicago is an amazing city. And I love the fact that, was it hard to convince your co-founders, the other two guys, to come to Chicago?
No, so one of our co-founders actually, Alex, the co-founder I met at business school, is from Chicago originally.
So he's convincing you.
So he was convincing me, yeah. And then for the rest of us, I mean, we already knew we were moving to California, so we basically just looked at it as our journey west. It's so like, okay, it's a step along the way.
So there's going to be a couple of years in Lincoln, Nebraska on the way. Is that?
Let's hope we skip that.
Okay. Nothing against Lincoln, right?
Nothing against Lincoln, yeah.
So, okay, now the process within TechStars, you apply, you get in. You've been in there how many weeks now?
So it is a 3-month program, and we are 2.5 months in. So
okay, so you're 10 weeks. How has it been for you?
So for us, it's been phenomenal.
Okay, why?
So I thought TechStars would just be some time and some money mostly, right? Yeah. What it turned out to be was an intense pressure cooker that let us very quickly discover who we are and then execute so fast, like in such quick iteration cycles, that we learned and changed I mean, before we got to TechStars, this is like 2.5 months ago.
10 weeks ago. You were so naive back then.
Well, no, we didn't have a mobile product yet.
Oh.
We still only had a web application. We'd been working on the back end of this web application for over a year, figuring out the right way to do search, the right way to break it up, how to do it visually. And so we had a pretty good idea of where we were going and the problem we were solving. But we kind of had mobile as this thing in the distant future. Like, we'll eventually get to mobile. And then what happened was TechStars gave us this pressure cooker where we heard a lot of feedback very quickly and had a lot of customer engagement. And what we kept hearing over and over again is, yeah, I can't find information, but where I really can't find it is on my phone. And our kind of roadmap had been desktop and then phone. And what we basically said was, whoa, put the brakes on. The opportunity is on the phone. Like, that's where people can't find their information. So we stopped completely on the web development, went 100% in on mobile, got the mobile application out, and we're actually shocked and very excited by the response we got from like the public, right? People really loved the solution.
That's amazing, right? So, what I've heard about TechStars and a lot of these little incubators is that they condense your time frame. They put a lot of pressure. They squeeze the idea out of you, right? And a lot of them are like you guys, where it's like we were going down this path, which was almost right, and or some of them are completely off, and then they like the team and they bring them into this center, which is exactly what it seems like you guys did. Focus on the things that are important, where you can make a dent right away, right? And that's what you guys did.
Exactly.
So your plans beyond TechStars, like, so the mentoring piece, all of that kind of stuff has been very valuable to you guys.
Yes, I mean, so like we said, along the product development, they helped us.
Yeah.
Then as soon as we needed to start to execute on different pieces of both getting the app out there, getting people to recognize the app, use the app, as well as like fundraising, right? We've been doing all of these things during the summer. And the mentors here, I mean, so we have 3 mentors, Troy, like managing directors, Troy Henikoff, Steve Farsht, and Sam Yegan. These guys are like expert entrepreneurs who've sold companies. Sam Yegan's actually the CEO of Match.com currently, right? Like, these guys know their stuff.
Yep.
And they're spending time with us sitting down saying, like, this is the way you raise funding. This is the way you execute a launch of an app or whatever it may be, right? So it's just a lot of great feedback at every step along the way.
Did you pick them, or were they assigned to you?
No, so these are like the managing directors. These aren't the mentors. In addition to that, then we got mentors where it was kind of a dating relationship where they picked us, we picked them, we interacted with them, and there's a whole slew of other people who've added incredible value. I mean, people that have built apps, people that have built other types of companies. So it's been a really cool opportunity.
So these guys have actually helped. Did they assist you guys collectively in the launch of FindIt, the app itself?
So just like a sounding board, right? Yeah. Okay. We talk about like the strategy we're going to do. So we sat down with them. Every week we have what equates to like a board meeting. And it's pretty intense,
brutal.
Right?
That's brutal.
You're sitting down with your board, and they are your board because they invested in us. So every week we're sitting down with them and saying like, okay, this is where we're at this week. This is the progress we made from last week. These are the goals. This is what we're doing. And you get drilled. Like, this isn't like a happy-go-lucky meeting. This is like, they look at you in the face and say like, I don't think that's the right thing to do. I think you guys are going the right direction. And we back up and say, no, this is why we think it's the right direction.
Wow.
And this back and forth. And so every week you're able to have a sounding board that offers a lot of guidance.
And so the outcome of this is that during this entire process, the 10 weeks that you've been in there, you have been doing product development. You've been obviously doing a little bit of recruiting. You've taken a little bit of money. You've had a little bit of shelter, right, from the cold, so to speak.
Yes.
Well, it
is a bubble. It is definitely a bubble.
Well, it is. You get a little bit of money. It's like it's a refuge almost, right? So you, in that period of time, you've gone from no mobile product to a mobile product. You have created some great relationships with some important people. You've been mentored by some great minds. You've basically brought your entire team together, got all your co-founders ready to go, and at the same time you've been fundraising. Is that right? Like, you're socializing this idea out to the investment community at the same time?
Yes.
What's the response been there?
Very positive.
Okay.
We actually, we've had good success on all fronts. I mean, at the end of the day, what has helped us most is we actually have a real product that helps people with a real problem.
Right. It's so important, man. It's like, for those of you who are listening or watching, that's it. We could end this right here because, hey, wow, we have a product that people want to use and it solves a real problem.
And, I mean, it's as funny as that sounds, like it took us a long time to get there.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a web app that we tried to get people to use, and a few people used it and a few people loved it. Yeah. But it just didn't meet the need squarely enough so that like it just started like building itself, right? I mean, we now have hit the problem square on the head where people are now talking about it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, how did you find out about FindIt?
Well, a number of things. It's my job to know a little bit about this industry, so I do. But it's a problem that I've always had, right? So I've used a whole bunch of similar applications that are out there, and somebody that I knew that this is what I was doing, and they said, listen, this just launched. You gotta. It was somebody in California, somebody in the States, I can't remember who it was, but they said, you got to see this application. And the reason they did was because I was asking people about good UI UX. And they said, okay, you got to see this. It's brand new. And then I downloaded it. I'm like, I mean, it was stunning. So, maybe 2-3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, I downloaded
Yeah, we launched. Yeah, it was only. I mean, we only launched 3 weeks ago. So
it was almost right around the time that you launched, and I love it because it's purpose driven, right? This is my opinion about it. Is that I've downloaded a whole bunch of others. Cloud Magic is one of them that I had, which basically you attach all your services to it, your Dropbox, your Box, your Gmail account, and then it doesn't give me any value. There's no purpose to it other than to list everything in one screen. And that's not what I need. What I need is purpose-driven applications at this point. And so when I saw this app, FindIt, you go there with a purpose. And the goal is to satisfy that purpose. And that's why I fell in love. That's why certainly I reached out to you guys.
Good. We love to hear good feedback from users.
Well, yeah, and that's it. And I think that the clarity of the purpose of the application is very key. So, but I'm interested in this. So when people download it, they get it. So when investors download it, they get it. There's good conversation. Your goal is here in 2 weeks, you graduate from TechStars, and then you head west, right? You go to California. What's the reason for that? Do I need to ask?
Well, I mean, you probably know at least one of the obvious reasons.
Yes, it's sunny.
It's sunny. Yeah, the weather's great.
Come on.
Hey, we're coming from Boston, right? I mean, we love Boston, so it was hard to leave Boston.
Yes. I don't know if you can see right up there. I got this little New York Yankees.
Oh, right. Yes. Sorry. Yep. Nope.
Tough year. So you want to go out there, obviously, because the investment community is there, and you'd be among your brethren, right?
We are building a company that belongs in California.
Yeah.
We're building a company that integrates with all the other SaaS cloud-based companies that are out in California, right? We're building a company that's trying to change the way you find information, trying to fundamentally change search, right, in a way that works for people.
Yeah.
As you start to think about all of these problems we're trying to solve, and we're trying to solve in a very user-centric kind of design way, there's just nowhere better for us to be, right? We think like there's startup communities everywhere that are very great and you don't need to go to California. But for some companies, you probably should be in California. And that's our company. We also happen to want to be in California, right? I'm from the western part of the United States originally. All of us envisioned ourselves moving west. And so there's personal family choices. I'm married with 2 little boys. And so we have like family reasons why we're going to California. But for the business, it's the place that the fundraising and the skills that we need to build the business exist.
Can't argue. Do you think you could do what you're doing with FindIt from anywhere other than California?
So, I mean, we're building it in Chicago right now, right?
Yeah.
So we've made a lot of progress here in Chicago in the summer. So the argument could be made that, yes, we could build FindIt here. What we would run into is 3 years down the road, maybe less, if FindIt is a huge success.
When FindIt is a huge success.
Thank you, Rob. When FindIt is a huge success, we've got to keep some humility, right?
Yes, I know. I can help there.
When FindIt's a huge success, it will take more money to scale. Yeah. This is a problem that is so big and pervasive that we want to be everywhere and help everybody with their problems of finding information that's spread across the cloud, right? To do that will require capital. More capital than you can find in Chicago, right? Chicago has some capital. We've had some great investors here, in fact, that are interested in us and that are wanting to put money in the company. But it's not the kind of sustaining capital that you need to bring your company to the type of opportunity we're looking for.
Right. I mean, there's just a natural call to California. I think that I have this vision of the United States is that it's just so heavy in California, right? Like it's tilted a little bit towards California. You mentioned that you're married with two kids. How old are your kids?
I have a 2.5-year-old son and a 6-month-old son.
Oh, wow. My God. So you're like, it's a startup unto itself, man.
Yes. It's been a rough summer, actually, because we left our families for the summer to do TechStars.
Oh.
So this is one more aspect of entrepreneurship that is not often spoken of.
You do not see this, right? Like, and so where's your family right now?
So my wife and little boys are in South Dakota. That's where her family's from.
Okay, so they moved to South Dakota when you went. You took into Chicago.
I put them on a plane in Boston, and I drove to Chicago.
Oh man, my heart bleeds for you. That is brutal. I mean, I have 6.5-year-old boys, and I can't stand to be a day away from them. But so was it? I don't know how to ask this delicately, just
No,
in
go
case your
for
wife
it.
is listening, but maybe she's not. How do you have this conversation with her with kids like this? Because I know a lot of entrepreneurs are in that stage. They're like, you can go down a path. You just spend a lot of money going to Harvard, right? Yep. And that's a path, man. And then you take this detour into entrepreneurship and move into Chicago and convince your wife that she's got to take your newborn and young kid down away to their parents. How do you do that?
So the first thing that I think in my situation helped was I've always been an entrepreneur, and so my wife didn't know what it meant to have like a paycheck. Like I've always had to create my own paycheck.
Okay.
Right? The position I had before Harvard Business School, I was running a clean tech nonprofit that I had more or less started myself, and I only got paid if I brought in money, right? So she was used to this type of entrepreneurship. We'd never been separated for a significant amount of time, so that was a whole new world. And
she might like it, right? That's the problem.
Yeah.
No, I'm just joking.
The problem, yes, I don't think she's liked it.
Okay, good. That's good for you.
It's good for me, but it definitely has caused pressure and tension on the marriage, right?
Absolutely.
Like, which you don't want. Like the balance that I've tried to have during the summer was I've gone out once a month to visit them, and we do daily FaceTimes, and I get to see my kids. But
how important is that? Like, just as an aside, I mean, FaceTime, all the jokes aside, you live that moment, right? Where you can connect. And whenever I used to travel, I would take, we'd have an iPhone at home, and I would sit and I would have breakfast with my kids, right? They just put it right down on the table, and I'd sit there and have breakfast with them. But how important is that single connection through FaceTime?
Critical.
Yeah.
I mean, yesterday I saw my son crawl, my 6-month-old crawl for the first time, right?
It's insane.
So like without FaceTime, I think it would be unmanageable. This way it's still incredibly painful, but I think like there's at least some connection that it's more than just vocal. We see each other. You can kind of feel a little bit more of the emotion that's going on.
Yeah. And sometimes the anger. So you can you convince.
It's good and bad.
Yeah, exactly. It's one thing to hear the tension. It's another thing to see it, right? But so you have this conversation and you say, look, I'm going to go to Chicago and you're going to go with your parents, and then we're going to meet up in California. How does that go down? Like, I don't mean to take as much time, but this is fascinating. Like, entrepreneurs, like, this is not spoken of, especially in this space, right? So
I think I'm happy to open up on this because I think like it's valuable for people to learn about this.
Yeah.
So like full disclosure, like my wife now, I think her major concern is I don't think things are going to change when we get back together in California. like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if she wants the world knowing this, but like, she's worried that I'm like not going to give them the time of day, even when we're in California, because we've basically trained ourselves this summer to work 2 or 3 full work days every day.
Yeah.
I mean, like one of my other co-founder, he also left his family. And so we shared this like 600 square foot hole in Chicago. There's enough room for 2 blow-up mattresses, and we never go home, right? We stay here at the TechStars office all day, every day, building this company. We know it's not sustainable. We know we're going back to normal life here next month, and yet our wives are doubtful that we'll actually be able to do it. So we know that there's going to be this hard transition back into real life.
It is very difficult, man. It is very difficult, especially when the pressures, then you add an investment on top of that with a small team, right? And and that is, I mean, it takes a very patient woman to be married to an entrepreneur, and it takes a very patient man to be married to an entrepreneur as well.
My wife is a saint, yes.
Well, I always thought about this is that I had twins, and I was very thankful that I had twins because I like to work, right? Much like you, I love to work. It satisfies me on every level, and but having twins forced me out of that routine, right? Which meant that I couldn't leave my wife alone with 2 kids. Like, I'm not, I had to be an active parent. And, with 1, it could have been just like, okay, you're fine, one-on-one. But with 2, it was like I was up in the morning, I was up at night, feeding them, I was doing those things. So having twins saved me as a parent. It made me a much better parent than I ever could be. And I think that's the only reason that my kids recognize my face, I think, is that because I had 2 at the same time. Anyway, so she's okay with you guys going to California. She doesn't mind living in California?
So my wife is from South Dakota, the Plains. She doesn't like big cities. So I don't think she loves the idea of big city California either, but she's really excited for us to be back together as a family. So.
All right. Well, I'm going to leave this topic. It's fascinating it's important to have this conversation, especially when you're married, and it's unique. I think that you guys have been able to do this, separated like this, and then hopefully when it comes back, you guys do get onto a good schedule and move forward.
The other interesting piece on that before we leave it is, so my other co-founder, his wife is here with him in Chicago, but it hasn't been any easier.
No. That's even more stressful, I would say.
So like, I think I look at him and his wife and feel the same amount of empathy, and like I see their struggle, because when you're an entrepreneur and you're going all in on building a company in this early stage where it's do or die, you either prove it or you fail. Like, it really takes a toll on relationships. So it's a conversation that needs to happen. That's for sure.
I mean, I think it's much better the way you guys did it, so that there is no, there's no go home guilt, right?
Yeah.
Like, even though there's an agreement, you don't want to come home and have that tension and then be that third man or the odd man out who can't stay for 3 days and work straight, you know, because I think that puts tension on it.
We have good spouses, all three of us, so we're
good for you guys. Good for you guys. All right, back to the business at hand. Okay, so
yes.
You've gone through this process. You've developed the application. Now, I want to talk a little bit about this interface. I mean, you know what I love about it is the simplicity with which I can interact with it. So, you know, for those of you who haven't downloaded, it's actually it's so simple. Is that, you know, it's broken down to search by person, search by time, search by type. So that's person, time, type. I'm going to do a really poor job of putting it up here on the screen so you can get a glimpse if you're watching. How long did it take to refine it to this point? Now, you're telling me that 10 weeks ago you didn't have an app. 10 weeks later you have this. Talk me through that process, man. So
yeah, the interface is a huge part of why this has been a success. What happened for us was the very beginning, over a year and a half ago, when we started looking at this, we knew that the solution had to be something that was visual and natural, that you could just simply see data in a new way. So we started building a web interface that more or less equates to what you see now on your phone. It was more of a dashboard type of experience, and it was a little bit more complex, but it broke data down into these very simple categories in a visual way, so you could see information by time, type, and person, which we felt were the categories you needed to quickly hone in on information. When we then decided to go mobile, we simplified that down as much as we possibly could to fit it on a small screen in a way that just was almost dumb simple. Like, anybody, without being taught what to do, can look at it and hopefully within a few clicks figure out, oh, that's how you use this to find information.
Like, was your goal to get people to use this once a day, once a week? I mean, how did you know, in the back of your head, what's that perfect situation that a user will how often will people use this?
So, long term, we think this is going to be a daily need.
Okay.
Right? The way that information is progressing and multiplying rapidly, we're going to find ourselves in a point very soon where finding information is going to become like the thing you do. Like, oh yes, I know I have that somewhere, 1 second. Right now, we think multiple times per week is probably the kind of sweet spot where you're an active user. You remember to use it often. But yeah, I think we're targeting eventually like this is a daily use kind of a tool.
Did you guys ever consider just doing a web app instead of doing an entire native experience? You know, because there's so many apps out there. Like, you know, to convince somebody to download something and change their behavior, did you think about that? Just a web app?
So because the user experience of search is what we're really solving, right? To do that perfectly has to be native.
Why is that? Like, it's just because like the capabilities?
Theoretically, HTML5 could do it. You could do it, but like it's those little interactions, the speed with which you can click and find what you need that matters. We have to be ultra fast, right? Like that is our value proposition to a user, and to do that right in a dependable way, we felt native was the only way to go.
Yeah. I mean, we all knew that. I mean, Facebook did the same thing. I mean, they could use it to an extent, and you know, for a web app, and then they have to convert for the speed benefits that it has. But I mean, that's always a challenge, right? Changing people's behavior. So the way that they search today is that you guys are coming in there and you're trying to change that. So ultimately, the reason that people are going to use your application is because it's fast and because people can access the information they need in a quick order, right? So, you know, what about location though? Like, did you start to think about context and location? Like, I'm at my office or I'm at home, I'm in my client's building. Do you start to think about, okay, how can we pull that kind of information, location into this to make it, you know, in the background to create more awareness or a simpler search?
So there's definitely a lot we could do with that, right? I mean, and we have thought about these things, and down the road, this may be something we work on.
Yeah.
But where we're at right now is if we give you a simple tool that allows you to filter through information, we think that's a powerful place to start.
So simple, start simple, right? Is that
so? The technology is not simple, but the way the user interacts with it is simple. If we go to location based and we try to predict what you need because we're at your office, it's totally possible we're wrong, right? Like maybe you actually are looking for something that is part of your personal life while you're at your office. But by giving you an interface that allows you to very quickly and in a natural way hone in on what you need, we let you take control in a way that's like anxiety, stress-free.
I mean, it's probably, you probably just answered that, but I think of, you know, I'm a big fan of this, you know, concept of calendar as the OS, right? So, you know, have you thought about that kind of technology where, listen, you know what, I keep a very good calendar. So here's my calendar, here's who I'm meeting with, here's where I'm meeting. Do you ever think about, let's add some context to that, and let's bring in your calendar to then display the information that we think you would be relevant or should be relevant to you for that meeting? Is that an idea, or is that a dumb idea?
No, that's an idea. We've definitely looked at like the idea of bringing calendar in from day one, right? Yeah. We're starting with the platforms where you have content that resides that's important to you that you need to get to. Calendar is part of that. It gives a lot of context to the relationships and the things that you're doing.
Yep.
But right now we started with the platforms where you have content that is hard to get to.
Yeah, I mean, we often overcomplicate things, and I think what you're saying is that the technology behind it can be as complicated as you want, but let's start with the ideas that next step that a user is going to take, their first challenge, not their 30th challenge, ultimately. Yep. And it just takes me, you know, 45 minutes to get that through my head. I appreciate your you know, your patience, Levi. That's great.
Yeah, of course. It's good to talk to you.
All right. Now, listen, so marketing, the reason why I reached out is that I got this email from you, all right, from your team that said, listen, we want to give you a $100 gift certificate if you just share this. You know, you love it. Send it out to as many people as you want. Get more people using it. So that's when I reached out and said, hey, I can do a little bit better than that. I'll expose you to my audience. It's 60,000 people a month that sit down and watch these things. So how did that work? And how are you marketing this thing? I know that you're short into this, but I mean, how did that work for you?
So that was pretty successful, actually. We had a lot of people who started pushing it out to their social networks. And I think the most exciting thing for us is it just helps us understand that there's people out there that love this enough that they're willing to share, right? I mean, it's just a validation that you're realizing, like, okay, that's a level of commitment that shows dedication to the product. There's people out there that love this. How do we find more people like them? So it's all part of that process, right? I mean, like, did it result in like thousands and thousands of downloads? I'm not sure. We haven't dug out the exact numbers that I'm gonna share on that right now, but it did really show us that there's people out there that are passionate about what we're doing.
I love that. So it validated your efforts ultimately, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's good. Every once in a while, an entrepreneur needs a good hug or a pat on the back, and like, good job, man. There are people out there that love what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like,
good.
You know, it's so important that you do that. Like, do you think it was the incentive? Do you think it was like, you know?
Yeah, we struggled with that. Like, do we even put that in there? We felt like putting a $100 gift card is like a joke, right? Like, we don't want to buy people's like dedication to the product. But at the end of the day, it really came down to our wife saying, like, I like the $100 gift card. I'm like, okay, all right.
So it's not for you. Yeah, it's
yeah. That's why we put the money in there. But we got a lot of positive response from users. Like, basically, it just started to create more of a relationship with our users, and that's what we want. We want people to understand that, like, we're trying to build something to help them, and if you have an idea of how to make it better, like, talk to us, tell us.
And I mean, is it? Did you have any opposition to the $100 gift card?
No, nobody said anything negative. So I don't think people cared one way or the other. Right? I don't think they shared for the money. They just were like, oh yeah, I like the product, I'll share it.
It takes a great product and a great idea to be able to allow people to do that, or give them I don't even know if I can explain this properly, but you know, when somebody shares something like that, when somebody says, hey, you know what, even if it's done by word of mouth, you know, you really should download this application, right? I do it all the time. Tempo is this calendar application that I'm in love with, tempo.ai, and I interviewed Raj Singh.
I saw the interview.
And I say, like, you know what, man, I'll recommend that to anybody. And when I do, I feel great about making the recommendation because it's an unbelievable application. Same thing with FindIt, is that you know that those users, it is such an absolute, I don't know, not even a tap on the shoulder. Like, I'm lost for words when somebody recommends your product. The only way I can equate it to this, I've said this one other time, is that it's like, what a great feeling it would have been to pen a song, right? To write a song and then put music to that song that's stuck in your head. So get that out onto a piece of paper, then get that out into music, and then get that out onto vocals, and then press the CD, and then, or, you know, record the MP3, and then have it distributed, and then stand on a stage and have your audience sing that back to you. Must be an incredible experience, right? Like, I I've never felt that, but it must be an incredible experience. As an entrepreneur, this is the equivalent. When somebody recommends your application to somebody else, they're singing your lyrics back to you on stage, isn't it?
That's a really good way to put it. Yes, and it feels amazing.
Yeah, and you can never take that for granted, ever, ever. So congratulations on that. How else are you marketing this?
So we just launched, right?
Yeah.
And more or less, we didn't put any marketing dollars behind this.
So walk through the launch process then.
Yeah. So for us, we felt from the beginning that the people who need this the most are like professionals, right? I mean, it's like a prosumer, professional consumer kind of approach where you target people with their individual products like Gmail and Dropbox and Google Drive, but the people who are business type people or professionals are the people who need to find information always, right? So we leveraged our own personal networks from business school and professions that we'd been in the past. That was like step one of the launch, right? Yeah. Contact everybody you know and try to get all of them to download it and use it and share it, right?
Were you asking like in a specific time period? Like were you trying to get them to download it all at the same time?
Yeah. So with the launch on the App Store, there's all kinds of strategies for how you can rise up the charts, and if you rise up the charts, it creates momentum, and you can rise further up the charts. So we realized that it was launching in like the Eastern Hemisphere the night before, right? So it went live in Australia first.
Yeah.
So we ended up doing an all-nighter. We stayed up all night that first 24 hours, just blasting every possible person in our like personal and extended networks. So that was like day one of the launch. And it went well. I mean, we got some decent movement. We were moving a little bit up the ranks, and I think I don't remember what number we got to, like 150th most popular app on the productivity list or something like that, right? Yeah. And then it like fizzled off a little bit after that, and we continued to then try to find other extended networks, and we still weren't paying anything for marketing. But we started hearing positive things back from users, right? And this was version 1.0 of the app. Right now, 1.1 is live, 1.2 will be live soon, and so it's made significant improvements since then. But even with 1.0, there's some really good things we were hearing about. Wow, I can find things on my phone now that I couldn't find before. So it started to spread, and eventually we got picked up by TechCrunch, and then Mashable, and then PandoDaily, and like it just kind of was this like ripple effect where the product was so good that people wanted to talk about it. And so we still have to figure out like marketing and distribution going forward. But what we've seen over the past month is the product is the key. Our product is good enough that people want to share it, and we now have to build pieces into the product that help people to do that.
So what was the impact of all of that media? Mashable, TechCrunch, Pando? Good?
Yes, very significant. It impacted the number of downloads we had, and it really gave us a user base large enough to start learning from very powerfully.
And was it kind of like this thing that we see, like it shot up one day and then it plummeted the next?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So that's what happens. You get up, you hit the peak, and then you hit the trough of despair, right? As you're plummeting down that mountain. But
yes.
Yes. But you want to stay on that high.
Depends on what day you talk to me, whether we're at the top or the bottom, but yeah.
But has it settled at a good spot for you guys? You're getting continuous downloads. You're doing
I think the more important thing for us right now is what we're seeing is the user base is engaging more and more with the product.
Okay, so that's a metric that you follow, obviously.
Yeah, we've gone from like average searches almost doubling over the past few weeks, where like the users are starting to use this more and more, and we're hearing about outliers with certain people using it 168 times in 5 days, like just searching all the time, right? So we're starting to see kind of the distribution of types of users and the average user, and trying to figure out how we can drive average engagement even more.
It's amazing. Like, what were they doing? What did they do before your app?
It was a consultant, so I think like they have a lot of information. They're always engaged with clients. I don't know what they did.
You must have saved that person hundreds of hours, right, in those 5 days.
I'm sure. Yes.
God, I love it. Well, and so now you do that. Like I love the language that you're using here, Levi. It's amazing because you're talking about, listen, we are not so interested in this vanity metric. Well, you need a vanity metric to start. You need downloads, you need users, right? But then when you go through that phase, what you're most interested in is the people, how many times they use it, how many searches they do, how many times they interact with the product. And then your next step, if I've got this right, is to start adding a little bit, a few more features to get people to use it even more, become part of their routine daily. Is that the process?
Yeah, so the big push, so next week, 1.2 or more or less next week should go live, and that has reply and forward within the app. So like basically what we've learned from our users is, wow, FindIt helps me find stuff.
Yeah.
but then I need to do something.
Then I have to get out of this app to go and do something.
So it's find it, then what? And those then whats are now what we're trying to figure out so that we can close the loop and make it a single powerful experience where it helped you find and do what you needed to do.
I love it. Yeah. And was that identified beforehand? Was that a feature you were going to add, or was that identified by your customers?
We definitely had it in our mind as this is something that it eventually needs to be there. Then what we heard from our customers universally was,
it has to be there.
I found what I needed, and then I needed to forward a reply to it. And so we said, okay, that comes up the chain, that needs to be live soon.
So you guys go through this process, and then, it's interesting. You haven't figured out marketing, but you've done relatively well without a marketing plan, really.
We have a marketing plan. It's constantly evolving and developing, and it will be different at different stages of the company. But right now, we just launched, and we rode the PR wave a little bit, and now we're starting to figure out how to target the users that really value this.
The hard work begins, right?
Yes.
Okay, now what about revenue? My last question is that, I'm a stickler for revenue. It gives me goosebumps when I say the word, right? and I'm sure that, as you go out into the investment community, you bring in some dollars, you get your seed round, you get your Series A. They're going to be looking at you saying, okay, we're either into this for the revenue long term, or we're into this to get, for an exit. It's either going to be a strategic acquisition, or it's going to be based on revenue. What is your revenue plan? There has to be a revenue plan.
Oh, of course. We're business school students, right? We know what revenue means.
You don't go to Harvard. You don't go to Harvard without thinking about revenue.
Yeah, they taught us a little bit about that.
Good.
So for us, it really is a freemium plan, right? So basically, we look at a free product that's introduced to a consumer with Gmail, Dropbox, and Google Drive as the entry point.
Right.
You use this to search, and you find that it's a much better way to search. You then take this into your company and pay to be able to search in the same way for Salesforce, in the same way for Microsoft Exchange, in the same way for SharePoint, for Box.net, for all of the applications that you use in the context of your professional life. You then pay to connect to those applications because FindIt is just such a better way to find your information that you're willing to do that.
So you'll license. So is that a server license, or is that?
No. So initially, we're coming from the bottom up. You as an individual could get your company to just cover that charge. It'd be a monthly or annual subscription. You say listen, you guys can find information however you want, but FindIt's the way that I'm.
This is what I'm going to do. And I like that approach, right? So the enterprise pays. I don't if I don't need to connect to Salesforce. And so when's the right time to turn that on? Do you guys know? Is it a user? Is it a number of users that you have? Is it a customer pull?
So it will be determined by user feedback to some extent, but really we're nailing the experience right now to show we know how to do this. Yeah. We know how to help people find information better, and now we're ready to expand other platforms. So you'll see that happening here pretty quickly because we've found that our solution matched the problem very well. So we'll start to move to these other platforms pretty rapidly, especially after we raise financing.
How much do you think of this? Last question here, Levi. I've spent more than an hour with you. I really appreciate your time. And this has been great. I've really enjoyed this conversation. When you look a little bit further down the road into this, you're building a long-term viable company here. Is your goal to grow, increase value for the company? Is your goal to revolutionize search? Is your goal technology, or is it business?
So our goal is really to change the way you experience search. There's a stressful, frustrating moment in all of our lives when you have to find something and you can't. That shouldn't be there. We're trying to revolutionize the way you interact with your data so that it's more natural and simple for you to find it. We're building a business that will allow us to change the way people find their information.
Well said, man. Where do we send people?
So getfindit.com, or just search FindIt, one word, in the App Store.
And I'm going to assume that you'll eventually be on multiple platforms.
So Android is under development and should be out the end of this month, actually.
Wow, with only just you guys. That's a big challenge to build multiple platforms at the same time. Good for you. Good for you. So getfindit.com. Find it on the App Store, eventually on Android. and go and download this application. If you're frustrated with the fact that you can't find or can't get access to your documents right now at this moment, if it takes you more than 3 clicks to find your documents at this moment, you need this application. If you find yourself doing that many times in a week, you need this application. Get FindIt.com or find it in the App Store. We've been speaking with Levi Belnap, who is the co-founder of a company called FindIt. Go to getfindit.com or find it in the App Store. Go do that right now. And for those of you who are still listening, still watching, wherever you are, whatever you are doing, I appreciate it so much. Thank you for doing this, and we'll see you next time on Untether.tv.